Welcome to Diplomacy and International Relations by Bastian Freiburg. Today we're diving into a fascinating puzzle, a real paradox, right at the heart of European politics, the incredibly complex human rights situation inside Denmark. Now this is a country that's famous, right? It's seen as a benchmark for fairness and transparency, but as you're about to see, the real picture is, well, it's a lot more complicated.
I mean, just look at the numbers. On the world stage, Denmark's reputation is absolutely stellar. It consistently hits the top of the charts for low corruption. It gets the highest possible scores for political rights and civil liberties. It really is the picture of a near-perfect state, a global leader in good governance. This is the image that most of the world sees, and frankly, it's the standard many Danes expect.
And of course, that perception is backed up by some powerful institutions, like the Ministry of Justice here. It's the very symbol of a well-ordered society where the rule of law is king. But we're here to look past that shiny surface, to dig a little deeper and uncover the complex reality that's hiding just underneath.
So this is really the crucial question, isn't it? How complete is that picture of a human rights paradise? Because the minute you start digging into the reports from international monitoring groups, and even from the Danish government itself, you start finding some pretty significant challenges that really complicate that ideal image.
So one of the biggest issues you'll run into is this concept called social dumping. Now, this isn't just about someone getting paid a little less. It's a whole systemic problem. We're talking about precarious working conditions that mainly hit foreign and migrant workers. You know, they come to Denmark looking for a better life, but they can get trapped in a cycle of exploitation. And that creates unfair competition and starts to chip away at the very standards Denmark is so famous for.
So let's just hold this number in our minds for a second. First, as in number 1, Denmark consistently ranks first in the world for low corruption. That number represents trust, integrity, this idea that everybody is treated fairly under the law. It's the absolute top of the mountain.
And then you see this number. A 2014 report estimated that around 700 people were living in conditions of modern slavery inside Denmark. So wait a minute, how can the world's least corrupt country have hundreds of people living as slaves? This right here is the core contradiction we are unpacking today.
Okay, so that brings us to the most severe version of this problem, human trafficking. And this isn't just a domestic issue that stays within Denmark's borders. No way. International bodies are watching very, very closely. And what they're finding is critical for us to understand what's really going on.
For example, take this from a 2021 report by Greta. That's the Council of Europe's expert group on trafficking. So these guys are the real deal. And their message is crystal clear. Denmark needs to do more. They found that victims often don't get the crucial information they need in a language or a format they can actually understand. It just goes to show you, even when you have support systems on paper, they can completely fail the very people they're designed to protect.
So what does this trafficking actually look like on the ground? Well, data from 2023 gives us a pretty clear breakdown. As you can see, sexual exploitation is the most common form, but you've also got significant numbers of victims of forced labor and even forced criminality. The key takeaway here is that this isn't just one thing. It's a complex crime that victimizes people in many, many different ways.
That last category, forced criminality, was at the center of this huge, landmark case known as the Hornet Nest case. In this situation, the traffickers weren't just forcing people to work. They were actually stealing victims' identities to commit massive fraud. The Supreme Court's ruling here was absolutely crucial because it confirmed that, yes, this is a form of human trafficking. It literally expanded the legal definition of exploitation and showed just how creative and adaptive these criminal networks can be.
So, when you're faced with these kinds of internal problems and this sharp criticism from the outside, how does the Danish state respond? I mean, the country's entire reputation is built on having effective systems, so let's take a look at the machinery they're putting into motion to try and fix this.
The official strategy is a national action plan, and it's built on 3 main pillars. First, strengthen the government agencies themselves. Second, boost the work of the NGOs, the people who are really on the front lines. And third, and this is a big one, improve how information is shared between all the different authorities to break down those bureaucratic silos. It's a very structured, top-down plan designed to plug the system's biggest leaks.
And get this, look at who's actually involved in the plan. It's not just the police, which you'd expect. You've got the tax agency, the Working Environment Authority, even the Financial Intelligence Unit and the Food Administration. This kind of multi-agency task force is designed to attack the problem from every single angle, from workplace inspections to following the money. It just shows you how incredibly complex this fight really is.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together.
We've got the pristine international image on one side, the grim reality of exploitation on the other, and a really robust state response in the middle. And that brings us to the central tension of this whole story, the gap between Denmark's impressive commitments on paper and the persistent challenges on the ground.
And this comparison table, this gets right to the heart of the whole issue. On one hand, Denmark has signed and ratified all the key international agreements on trafficking and forced labor. They've committed to the highest standards. But then you look at the other side, and monitoring bodies keep finding these critical gaps in how those commitments are actually implemented. Victims have a hard time getting compensation, there aren't specialized prosecutors for these cases, and witness protection is often not good enough. It's the perfect example of how commitments on paper doesn't always translate to protection in the real world.
And this leaves us with a final, and I think pretty profound question. For a nation that really prides itself on being able to self-correct, what's the true measure of its strength? Is it the complete absence of problems, or is it the robustness of its response, the ability to see its own flaws and have a system in place to try and fix them? It's a question that really gets to the heart of what we should expect from any modern democracy. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you found this analysis valuable, please be sure to follow the podcast. And if you could, please consider leaving a 5-star rating. It really helps us reach a wider audience. We'll see you next time.